Hi, hello. This is Kogi Gitui, the author of the Unscrambled Manifesto of Africa and War on Corruption, books that you can find on Amazon.com. Thank you today as I indulge you in a topic entitled Small Scale to Large Scale. This is the new phenomenon. When I was an eager biotechnologist, I would sometimes peruse out of syllabus books of biotechnology to learn how to produce biotechnology products such as medicinal proteins or substance using transformed cells, transforming of cells and coming up with assays to ascertain that they indeed produce the required protein had been my target then. This we learned in the course of the syllabus, but never did we get in an in-depth look at how the large-scale production of such products, like insulin, takes place and what are the challenges. How is this quality maintained? How is automation achieved? Such were ignored, and no wonder we have no homegrown scientists engaging in the lucrative production of recombinant proteins. The process of growing such cells in large scale to produce large quantities of the required product in biotechnology is called fermentation. More precisely, it refers to the growing of cells, bacteria or fungi, under optimum conditions for maximum cell division and product production. Contrast this definition with that of true fermentation, where cells utilize glucose under anaerobic condition. For instance, scale-up begins with the transfer of transformed cells to broth. Volumes of broth cultures begin as small quantities, maybe 50 ml, in flasks, with the ideal temperature, pH, aeration, and nutrients. The cells will grow and multiply as quickly as at every 20 minutes. Hence, 1 million cells become 2 million in 20 minutes. In 40 minutes, there are close to 4 million transformed cells. This is called exponential growth, where a culture doubles in size with every cycle. With every cycle, it doubles its size. Thank you very much. When a broth culture is first inoculated, it appears clear. Since there are only a few million cells in a relatively large volume. However, as the culture becomes more concentrated with cells, it turns cloudy, and the concentration of cells in the culture can be monitored using a spectrophotometer. Over time, the cells in the culture begin to use up the broth nutrients, which slow their growth and cell division. When this happens, the culture is said to be at stationary phase, and it must be transferred into a new, larger broth culture. If the transfer to a larger volume occurs before the culture reaches the stationary phase, it ensures that the dividing cells always have optimum conditions. Mostly the fermentation protocols are different for different cell lines and for different products. However, without getting into the nitty-gritties of the similarities, the convention of scaling up or more or less follows the following pattern. From a 50 ml culture are transformed into a 300 ml spinner, to a 500 ml spinners, to a 5-liter spinner, and to a 10-liter fermenter, then scaled up to 80-liter bioreactor, and then to a 400-liter bioreactor, to a 2000-liter bioreactor, and ultimately to a 10,000-liter bioreactor. All the while, assays must be positive for transformed cells, target protein, and sufficient concentration, and the product must show activity. In short, what can be learned from the above is that any large-scale process begins with a small-scale model that is scaled up, and protocols are set to ensure higher production of products of similar quality as is in the small scale. The young scientists should be intrigued enough to fashion similar protocols in any of their noble ideas by making sure that the micro level they get it right. efficiency and efficacy high, and after that they should not stop there. For high returns belong to the large scale, and therefore they must design ways to increase production while maintaining quality, and this is enabled by frequent monitoring and assess as the scale up is done. By learning to come up with small perfect models that can be scaled up, the young scientists will also appreciate the need to automate, since large-scale bioreactors would require a lot of labor and time if they are to be monitored and maintained manually. But to save on this cost, automatic machines that perform frequent assays and maintain conditions at optimum levels are employed. Here also, knowledge in computer software generation is fitly, for such automatic machines are run by this software. It is in automation that the physics and mathematicians are highly required. That is the truth, and that is the case. We see this brings me to my driving question in this segment. Why do we get it right in small scale but not in large scale, especially in Africa? Why do we get it right in small scale but not in the large scale? Where is the disconnect? For instance, it is not surprising to find students in agriculture practicals harvesting up to 86 kgs of potatoes on their 5 by 4 feet plots, yet in their bigger farms, say a 120 feet by 80 feet, they would rarely reach 2,400 kgs. To elucidate further on this disconnect is if the maximum small-scale model harvest of potatoes is to be 86 kgs on a 20 square feet, then in a 96,000 square feet portion, we should expect 41,280 kgs of potatoes. The difference between the observed and the expected is gigantically significant. One need not carry out a kite test. There is a catastrophic disconnect. So the syllabus defenders and policymakers still commit the teacher of agriculture to continue churning out students perfected in small scale, but clearly failures of achieving large scale significant output. Then we wonder why that our country is still struggling with food insecurity at this 21st century. Why? Here is the disconnect. The student is not taught how to scale up and how to mechanize, for that is what it takes to certify the requirements tested at the small scale to the large scale. A hoe for deep digging, a wheelbarrow for manure, and a panga for planting seeds are sufficient for a 20 square feet, but are highly deficient for an acre or a hectare. At large scale, one would require a huge tractor to plow to the recommended depth and another to carry out mixing of manure or compost and plant at recommended spacing. Many scientific ventures requires perfect small-scale models and also perfect protocols that lead to highly efficient large-scale scale-ups. In short, anything that is achieved perfectly at a small scale is a scientific wonder, while that which is achieved with highly significant efficiency at large scale level is a commercial triumph. They that master the art of scaling up reap the great returns, and this has been done by the Europeans, the Chinese, and the Americans. For instance, one can come up with a process that can turn the nuisance quelea bird or locust swarms into a protein feed instead of poisoning or killing them as it is usually done. A small-scale model can be fashioned, but the large-scale model that can be lucrative and give birth to an industry can prove to be challenging. How do we harvest the swarms to entrap them in large scale? How do we monitor or locate them? What kind of machines can be used? It is known that the swarms can wreak havoc in wheat or rice farms. However, this pool of protein should be utilized and not wasted. The ball, ladies and gentlemen, is in everybody's court now. Start small, then scale up is the way is the future way. Start small and then scale up, and do introduce and inculcate the use of machines and technologies, the ICT technologies, and this shall enhance food productivity in Africa. Thank you very much for listening to me.